There you go. Welcome back to Monday Show with Craig Revel-Horwood, Anne Diamond and Stephen Peacocke, who you can catch in Home and Away every weekday at 1:15 and 6, right here on Channel 5. Coming up next, we're asking if paying an impoverished woman in India to carry your child is immoral. It's illegal to pay a surrogate in this country anything but expenses to have a baby for you, not in India. So do we have a problem with that? 0207 173 5555 is the number if you care to let us know. But first, it's over to you, Stephen, for the headlines. It's a bit like being back at school doing your exams.
It is. It's nerve-wracking, but give it my best shot.
Especially if you just arrived on the plane.
Just trying to make sense of it all. It's all good.
Right. Fire away.
Yeah, so in The Guardian front page is the South African sprinter Oscar Pistorius,
yeah,
who was beaten in the T44 200-metre final. And that would have been a hat-trick for him. I think that would have been his third. Yeah. And he was a bit upset after the race because the bloke who beat him, who was a Brazilian, had longer running blades than him, and he was saying there should be a review by the international committee into whether or not the running blades of the other athlete were longer. But then
I honestly, I am no expert, but it does strike me that if you have longer blades, you have some sort of advantage. Dame Tanya Gray-Thompson is saying that the restrictions and regulations on the blades are so tight that Pistorius hasn't got any reason to argue. But there is an irony as well that the able-bodied athletes, because Pistorius ran against them in the Olympics last month, the pundits are saying, well, nobody has a problem with him having blades as long as he doesn't win any gold medals in the regular able-bodied Olympics. But if he was to start winning gold medals, then people would start saying, well, this blade, does it help? Does it not help? So the whole thing seems to be
Well, you can see
messy.
how difficult it is categorising anything in the Paralympics. Because apparently, though, the length of the blades isn't just to do with a fitment that you put on. It is calculated, some of it's calculated, on what height you would be if you actually still had your legs.
Yeah.
And so you can imagine that is arguable, especially if, you know, maybe you lost your legs a long time ago. How do you actually argue that this is the height I would be if I had my ordinary
regulating
legs?
the blades themselves and what they're made from, you know, how well they perform.
Well, I'm sure they are regulated, and Anne's quite right about how they're matched up to your height. It's just...
And what you've lost as well. You may have lost only a foot and not the whole shin, or you may have lost your leg from the thigh down, you know, so you don't have a knee.
I think as that more and more attention is focused on Paralympians,
But haven't you
there's going to be
found
more and more
yourself
questions.
doing that? You watch a Paralympic event and you can't help thinking,
is it fair?
This is terribly politically incorrect to think it. You think, how disabled is that person? And is that the same as that person swimming in the lane next to them? Or how do you compare? I just can't understand it, and you can see how.
Absolutely.
But nevertheless, don't we live in an amazing world where people who have lost their legs can run like this? I mean, that's just incredible.
No, for sure. But then I'm also thinking that notwithstanding that one's taught to be a good loser, and if you've lost, it would have been nice, perhaps, for it to be for Pistorius to have accepted. I don't know. It's ever so difficult. Ever so difficult. Anyway, what else have you got, Steve?
So in The Sun, on page 2, The Sun.
Why is everybody giggling?
I don't know.
The Sun. I wish I was back in The Sun.
Telegraph, I'm told. Telegraph page.
OK, all right. The PM is backing tougher marking for students for in-year... I guess this is in-year leaving certificate, what we call our HSC.
GCSEs.
And they were saying there's been an inflation of marks being possibly bumped up in the past, and they're trying to bring it back down to make it more competitive, more as it would be in the real world. So I think there were some exams sat at the beginning of the year which were... the marks may have been slightly inflated.
The suspicion has been that the exams have been getting progressively easier and easier, and the Tories, who like to show they're tough on such things, this summer, exam grades started to go down, but not uniformly across the country. It seems to be done on a sort of ad hoc basis, and there are concerns that some children have been unfairly punished. How did yours do, Anne? Yours was A-levels, wasn't
thank goodness we did it well, and he got his grades, and he's in uni, starts uni next week, and thank goodness.
With results, with these criticisms that have come through, I mean, if it had gone the other way around, you hadn't got the grades you wanted,
I would feel very upset, I suppose, and certainly my sons would be, yes, because if slightly tougher marking means the difference in a grade that can mean the difference to whether you get an apprenticeship, whether you get into the sixth form of your school or whatever, I can see why we all wanted, I think, things not to slide, standards not to slide. Therefore, it means at some point you've got to pull up your socks. But it does appear to have happened very suddenly between January and June, when there are two sets of exams.
So do you think that the Ofsted chief saying that we need exams to be tougher, that we want exams to be tougher, is a good sign that it's now that we're heading in the right direction?
I think we are, but I think it's just a pity if you feel aggrieved
in this year.
Yes,
agreed. OK. Anything else, Steve?
Yeah, what else we got? Oh, yeah, I like this one. Clothes maketh the man. That was the headline. And it's in the Daily Mail, and it's basically saying that a lot of blokes out there will seek permission or at least approval from their mothers, girlfriends or wives on what they're buying and what they're dressed in when they leave the house. So I'm not personally like that. Actually, before I came here today, I got a bit of advice. I said, "Is this okay?" And Bridge sort of said, "Yeah."
Was that female advice or male advice?
Bridge, my girlfriend, she kind of said, "Yeah."
Okay, so yeah.
Well, because you're going on telly, you know.
Yeah. Does she buy clothes for you or go clothes shopping?
No, well, because you know, this also goes on to say that, you know, people, blokes trust their wives, whoever, to get them in the latest trends, and I guess I just have made a point of I found one type of clothing that suits.
Stick with it.
And I've just stayed with it through the ages.
A lot of men do that, don't they?
Well, in Australia, I don't know if it's the same here, but the skinny leg jeans are all the rage. They look like jodhpurs, like they're like stockings, and they're not for me. You know.
Yeah, but they only
welcome
look
to the show.
On skinny guys, and you've got big old rugby thighs.
Yeah, that's right. I can't fit in them, mate. A few times they've tried to dress me in suits and stuff, and it just the crutch just goes. They just won't.
Sounds fascinating.
Ellie, you're so easy to please, you girls. You really are. You really are.
There's some stuff coming up on air in about 2 months' time, and we had to do this stunt, and it was really exciting. But they bought four pairs of big pants, like they were broad, and they were these G-Star pants that were about $300 a pair, and I had to do this thing. All right, threw this bloke on the ground, and I'm ready to punch him, and every time I stepped over him, they went. And they were two brand new pairs of pants in 2 takes, and there was all this media. It just happened to be the day that the media came on set, so they saw me split 2 perfectly good pairs of pants open.
Fantastic.
So yeah, as long as Bridget doesn't dress me in something like that, I guess I'll be safe.
I think it's quite normal for men to have women sign them off for their clothes.
Yeah, I guess so.
Some men make terrible choices, let's face it.
Yeah.
Like
can you look elsewhere? I was going to say, eyeliner.
I'm glad to see the purple suit has finally left the building.
Well, it is only Monday. Give us a chance. Give us a chance. Come on, anything else, Mr. Peacocke?
Yes, OK. In the Daily Mail. Oh yeah, this bloke was classic as well. Oh, classic. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't say that. He won £50,000 in Deal or No Deal, and he spent it all before he knew that the show was going to air 4 weeks after he shot it. So he spent his winnings before it went to air, and before his wife, who was trying to divorce him, would see it and then try and claim half of it. So by the time she saw it, it was gone. He'd spent it all, but you know, he'd spent it on his kids. He'd paid off all their credit card debts.
Okay.
So he'd done it. He hadn't just gone and blown it on, you know, on a silly holiday or something. Although I think he did go on.
I suppose if he hadn't have paid off all his debts and paid off credit cards, then she would have made a claim on part of the money, and those debts would still be with them. So actually, he's probably done her a favour as well.
Yeah, it seems that way, but I don't know.
Do you have Deal or No Deal down Under or not?
Yes, it's a big show down there. It's actually on Channel 7 that plays home and away as well. But yeah, it's I don't know. I think she was having an affair or something, so maybe she got what was coming. No.
Yeah. And allegedly. And he says hastily. And one last one from you?
Yeah, this is close to my heart, because if you can see it, and there are all these people with sort of fake, they've had their bodies painted up, and this is not dissimilar to what I have to have done every day with my tattoos. Nothing that looks that extravagant.
Amazing.
But I think they're in South Korea, and it's an international body painting.
They are amazing.
Festival, yeah.
Amazing. So why didn't you have tattoos for real? You just don't like them, or...?
No, I've just never found anything that I'd like to keep with me for the rest of my life.
Something around your neck?
No, if anything, this 2 years so far on this show has cured me of any need to ever have tattoos, I think. Although...
You had one, haven't you?
No, I wanted a tattoo. And again, the makeup ladies here at the Wright stuff put on one of those brilliant fake tattoos. And that got rid of the, you know, after a week of that, I just didn't feel the need anymore, yeah.
I had a terrible reaction just recently to a henna tattoo, actually, on holiday. I thought, I'll try a tat, you know. And then I tried it for the first week. It was fine. I thought, well, I'll do it on Sunday because I'll be back in London on Monday to film with Darcy Bustle and I'll strip off and I'll be covered in tats.
Really?
Well, I had it done and then I had a terrible allergic reaction.
Did you come up in a rash?
I've come up in a terrible rash, Matthew. I'll show you later. No, it's really, really bad. I'm not joking. I'm warning the entire world against them because it was terrible.
OK.
I've had my, actually, the tattoo on my chest, I've had it sunburnt into my skin, so it stayed with me
of course,
for a week.
That wouldn't tan, would it?
Yeah, when we started off, so I was walking around and I live in a fairly well-to-do sort of area of Sydney. I'm in a crappy flat, but in a nice spot. And I was down at the beach, and it looked like I'd tried to have a tattoo lasered off my chest. So they were looking at me going, "You loser! Why did you do it in the first place?"
Sort of negative tattoo.
Yeah.
Come on, then, we've got to crack on. Anne, what have you got for us, please?
OK, front page of the Times. Of course, our British athletes have already beat their haul of, beat the number of gold medals.
From Beijing.
Basically, that we got in Beijing. I mean, I could read through the list, but it would take a long time because we are doing so darn well. And it's just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant is all I can say. And I'm looking forward to it. I hope we get... I hope I witness a gold medal being won tonight.
I'm sure you will.
Really looking forward to it.
You will. Might not be a British one, but you will.
I don't think I'm going quite the right night. Tomorrow night would be better, but never mind, we'll see. Daily Express. Oh, gosh, yeah, this is a story that's in most of the tabloid newspapers. If you look at the central picture, the little picture there, that's of a man called John Tulloch. Now, it's the central picture you look at. That was one of the iconic images of 7/7. He's a man called Professor John Tulloch. He is a Brit. He was sitting on the tube opposite the suicide bomber Mohammed Sadiq Khan. And it's only his luggage that stopped him, obviously, from dying. But we all remember that image of how badly he was injured.
Why is he facing
Prince Charles visited him in hospital and said, "This is the epitome of the British spirit," and everything. And he was seen as, I mean, he's a lovely man. His father, I mean, he can trace his British ancestry back hundreds of years. His father's British. His mother was British. His sons are British.
So
he's lived in Britain
most
of his life. Worked in Britain most of his life. He was born. His father was a major in the Gurkha Rifles and was serving in India, pre-independence India, when John was born. And just by one of those quirks of things that happened his passport meant, because he was born there, it was a British subject without citizenship, in quote marks. And that means that when, years later, he went to work in Australia and actually applied for Australian citizenship as well, he was hoping to have dual citizenship. Right. When he actually got the Australian citizenship, it negated his right to British citizenship. He didn't know this at the time. Apparently lots of people have been through this sort of thing. So now he wants to stay in Britain, and he's been told he can only do piecework, as it were. He can only stay in Britain on licence. He is not a British citizen. And yet he is British in every way otherwise you can think of.
So he's not being kicked out of the country, then?
No, they're saying that, well, he's worried that if he leaves the country, he won't get back in because he literally does not have a British passport anymore.
Hopefully somebody in Whitehall can sort that out.
He's a professor at Brunel University. He's head of journalism at Cardiff University. This man is British in every other way you can think of. And I think it's just terrible that being a 7/7 victim, he said 7/7 was one thing, I can talk about it, I lived through it. I can't talk about this, it's so upsetting. Isn't that awful?
Well, at one stage, you did have to give up your Australian passport to become British. Yes. There was that, but that changed, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, something. But now you're allowed to be dual citizen, which I am, of course. But I do sympathise with him. But actually, he should have been on it a little bit more, because if he had have applied
more to the point is whoever somebody in the Home Office should sort this out straight away.
They will, because it's come to light.
Yes, obviously. And now the next thing, I wonder how many people, I wonder if Craig Revel Horwood has ever been tempted to review his own books on Amazon and other websites.
Yes.
This is the greatest book I've ever read.
I did.
Did you do it under an assumed name?
No,
you did it under your own. That's different.
Oh, you got your friends to do it.
Okay. Well, I can't do it from my own email address.
Well, no, that's That was the mistake made by this author, R.J. Ellery, who writes thrillers. He has reviewed his own books on Amazon under assumed names.
Right.
But making the mistake of having his own email address at the end of these assumed names. So apparently, this has happened quite a lot, and there's a bit of a campaign against this going on. So it was very easy to track him down. But he actually, not only has he written absolutely brilliant praise of his own book, but he's written disparaging words about other authors' books as well, which you shouldn't do. You shouldn't do. He said R.J. Ellery, that's him, is one of the most talented authors today. It goes on and on, this unbelievable praise he's heaped on himself under an assumed name. All he has said now is, I've been found out, I'm sorry, you know, lack of judgment. I suppose he's got a lot of publicity out of it, so maybe that would do him good, I don't know. There's another shocking story, I suppose, that's still Olympian in the Daily Star. Olympic cyclist Victoria Pendleton has revealed her self-harming hell.
I was really shocked by
says the Daily Star. Yeah, she's written her autobiography, and in it she has revealed that even at her most triumphant times in Beijing, when she won a medal, she was self-harming. Because she's still, isn't it amazing?
Do you think there's a
she still felt so low about herself
inside. There's a part of athletics where you think about the pain, that there is a form of, is it not in the head that you're punishing yourself? Yes. So I'd never thought about it until Victoria had written this, but I now think, well, maybe it's not such a surprise.
No, it doesn't surprise me,
an all-consuming passion.
Perfection is the only thing that matters in their mindset, isn't it? We saw it in the Olympics when there was one rower, wasn't there, who broke down in tears and said, "I'm so sorry, I let everybody down," for getting silver. You know, I think, yes, they are taught, they have to have that mindset that gold is everything, perfection is everything. So occasionally they fall short of their own standards.
And prima ballerina's the same with bleeding feet, you know, up on point.
Absolutely,
day after day after day, but still go through that pain.
And then ultimately you could say all beauty processes and treatments, there's a sort of pain, I don't know. It's
anyway, gladly, Victoria does say that she's gone through quite a lot of therapy and she no longer does it, which is good news. And then I'm sorry to end on a sad story. It's in the Times, but it's a very strange story. On the Norfolk Broads, a couple hired a boat and went out for the day on this boat with their 13-year-old daughter. I think it was her 13-year-old daughter. And it was only much later in the day, when the boat didn't come in at the end, that they launched a search for the boat. And they found this 13-year-old alone on the boat, and they had to trawl for the bodies of her mother and her mother's partner. And we just don't know why they ended up in that situation. The 13-year-old girl is under police protective care, which I find a strange.
Well, that's because she's
Would they normally
alone.
use the word protective?
Yeah.
Oh, all right, OK. So nothing more to be read in it.
There's been some question about the barbecue, whether there may have been a problem with the barbecue, whether the carbon monoxide had left them disorientated. But it's very curious.
Strange.
And very, very sad.
One day we will find out what happened, but it's just one of those dreadfully, dreadfully tragic stories, I think.
Nicely done, Anne. Funny Craig, what have you got?
Yes, my first story is a Paralympic story again, and it's closely related and connected to the ones we've been talking about. This is from The Independent on page 4. Elite too far, Britain denied gold despite breaking world record twice. This is about Great Britain's Stephanie Reid, who leapt almost like a metre further than her nearest rival, who was an Australian, Kelly Cartwright. So I'm barracking for both, which is fine. You should run it, but the point is, she jumped further, but because of the point system, the way they amalgamate all the points, she came out with less points in the end.
Because of her disability relative
because
to
of
the
her
other
disability and the relative...
This is just what Anne was saying earlier.
Exactly. And, you know, I have to think about the people in, you know, the able Olympics, of course, who, like for swimmers, if you've got longer arms and a longer back and shorter legs, you're much better off than anyone with a long body. With anyone with a short body, rather. So, you know, and that's the same in dance, you know. Only some people can make it to the highest level.
With the right body.
Because you've got, you're naturally gifted, and it's the length of bone.
it's such a massive jump, but if the circumstances were uneven, then I suppose we have to put faith in the way they award points, in the way they assess disabilities, and these are the rules.
I mean,
that's just the way it is.
The beauty is she accepted it graciously, you know, and was fantastic about it.
Pay note,
Well, unlike the other one. OK, my next story is from The Sun, which is on page 5. They've been robbed 3 or 4 times. Now, this is about a couple who were living in a country cottage. They were robbed 3 or 4 times, so they moved away. They moved back to this cottage, they were robbed again, and then, attempted burglary, I think it was.
That's the allegation.
Yeah, the allegation. And now they've been, and of course they used a shotgun against them this time, and injured 2 of them, I think. Allegedly, yes. Of course.
I know two men at different times walked into hospital with shotgun wounds. So
yes, exactly. So they dialed 999 saying, oh, we've shot, you know, burglars, allegedly. And then, of course, the burglars had to dial 999. They all went to hospital, and that's where they got arrested. But now they've all been arrested. Now,
arrested is not the same as being charged or indeed prosecuted.
Absolutely.
And you would be surprised if the police did anything else at this moment in time.
I mean,
they've got people that have been shot to alleged burglars. You've got people that have been shooting alleged burglars, and they're allegedly shooting. I mean, it's alleged.
Well, but there's the farmer that did kill you know, a burglar, and I think 55,000 people, something like that, stood up for him. You know, like the public.
And that may,
we have rights, you know, because they're breaking
in this case here as well. I mean, it's just, I think it's perfectly understandable that the police would arrest everybody at this moment in time.
Absolutely. My next story is from the Mail, page 30. Safe's lover begs Blair, show some loyalty. This is about Colonel Gaddafi's son and his last known ex-girlfriend standing up for him and sort of waving a flag and a banner for him, but
because he's on death row, isn't he?
He's on death row, yes. He's facing the death penalty in Libya, of course, where he's on trial for his role in the killing of protesters during the uprising, of course. And
Tony Blair did a lot of glad handing with him, didn't he?
Well, they worked very closely together, you know, apparently. And this lady is actually saying, you know, come on, Mr. Blair, you're a man of God, and as a Christian, you have a moral duty to help a friend in need.
Well, David Cameron, at the height of Rebecca Brooks's problems, has said, you know, was he still in contact with her? And he said, you know, I'm not a fair-weather friend, implying that he, you know, maintains contact. It'd be very interesting to see if Tony Blair is a fair-weather friend or not. Absolutely.
My next story is about Bruce Willis, who was in a fight with Apple about his iTunes. He's got £40,000. He bought £40,000 worth of iTunes. He wants to leave them in his will to his family.
Right, as if they were records or CDs or
yes, but apparently Apple turned around and said, well, actually, no, they're only you're borrowing them. So that means if you bought something, you're renting it for your lifetime, I suppose, and you're not allowed to hand it on. Now, I have a huge problem with that. I think if you buy something from iTunes, you should own it.
If you read the 590 pages of small print, you'll find that you don't actually own them. I have so many problems with these contracts. They're paid. Has anybody ever read one? No. So it's a totally unfair contract. You agree, because if you don't agree, you can't use your computer. You can't use the service.
I think it's good that Bruce Willis has brought this up.
I agree. Totally.
Because if you go to a record store and buy a record, yes, you can leave that to your children.
Yeah.
But if you buy it off iTunes, you download it off iTunes, that's not the same at all.
But if you put it onto a disc,
then it is.
I don't know. That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, they always do tell you. I think if when you download something, you should back it up to a disc so you have a hard copy.
So does that disc belong to Apple?
And then give your hard drive as a gift.
Right, I think we'll leave them chattering and take a break. After which, we're asking if paying a foreign surrogate to carry your child is immoral. I'll say again, it's illegal to pay a surrogate in this country anything but expenses to have a baby for you. Not in India, not elsewhere. At least 1,000 women in India have been used by British couples. Are these women... Are they being effectively helped to escape poverty, as supporters say, or are British people desperate for children exploiting them? 0207 173 5555 is the number you need. I dial quickly and carefully, and we'll have a chat after these.